Welcome to WLNM, the web novel and manga review, hosted by Zeke Changuris.
Welcome to WLNM, the web light novel and manga review, the podcast dedicated to bringing our listeners the artists, writers, creatives, and other industry pros that are part of this amazing industry we all love. We'd like to welcome back N'Donna Russell, author of Makeup, the mystic narrative and transformation as a mechanism of personal and spiritual growth in the magical girl genre, our magical girl expert. So, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about Netflix's Sailor Moon Eternal movies. You ready to get into this?
Can I just say how amazing it is that you managed to say the entire title of my thesis without without it was a massive tongue twister. It's like, kudos to you for doing that.
Well, it comes from reading the names of light novels all the time. So,
Oh my God, yes.
So I completely feel you. I mean, Sailor Moon has it easy. Sailor Moon Eternal, Sailor Moon Crystal. They make it very easy with their very short titles, as opposed to that time. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon, etc. So yeah, I get used to the very, very long titles at this point.
Yeah, I hear that.
All right, let's to anybody who is not a sailor, to give everyone a basis for some background on this and the Eternal movies.
Mm-hmm.
Sailor Moon focuses on the story of Usagi Tsukino, a schoolgirl who has the ability to transform into the powerful magical girl called Sailor Moon, whose responsibility is to defend the Earth from the powers of darkness. She doesn't do this alone. She does this with the help of other sailors named for the other 8 planets. And yes, we're still including Pluto in that.
Yes.
Yes. I wonder how she felt getting demoted. Did her powers weaken? What the,
especially when you consider she's probably one of, she's probably one of the most powerful senshi in the whole entire group. So
yes, but hey, we decided to demote Pluto. I mean, it really, hell, it has always confused me, as other than it sounds better Sailor Moon than Sailor Earth.
Yeah.
Because Sailor Earth makes me think of Captain Planet and the Planeteers. But the fact that she's Sailor Moon as opposed to a planet. So I've always thought that was an interesting dichotomy. So I enjoyed the films. I mean, I have watched Sailor Moon. I have watched it in the past. I watched it a little bit in the 90s when it was out. I had a good friend. His name was Chris Harvey. He had pictures hanging up in his locker. And considering I grew up in a hick town, that was very telling. So I know that watching these 2 films, which were beautifully animated, which is something I can attest to, and they had the nice bright colors that they had in the 90s that Sailor Moon Crystal didn't quite have. They were a little more pastel, a little muted. But other than, this was interesting and I had a fun time watching it, I really didn't get to dig into it because I don't know if I don't feel I know enough, and that's why I bring on someone like you. So tell me, what did you think of this film and how it works, how these films work overall?
So it's interesting for me because I watched the original anime's interpretation of these particular, which is the Dark Circus, I believe, or Dark Circus arc. I thought the movies were great. I enjoyed watching them on Netflix. In fact, I was really excited that the rumor that it was coming to Netflix actually turned out to be true, because as you know, that's a big thing, because it's like, there's things as Crunchyroll and Funimation, but when an anime if something as big as Sailor Moon comes to Netflix, it's like, whoa, oh my goodness, you know? So it was very exciting to wait for June 1st and going, okay, I'm ready to watch this. And I enjoyed it, but it was I felt like it went through a lot of material in 2 movies or in 2 90-minute films. So there's a very, for me, it was that very interesting feeling that I also had when I watched Sailor Moon Crystal, in that the original anime that was aired between 1992 and 1995, it had a lot of filler, but it also had a lot of opportunity to get to know characters. And I don't just mean like the protagonists, I mean the enemies too. So, you know, they have their own little arc, and, you know, it would take several episodes before they, you know, would come to their demise. But you got to know these characters during that particular time. And now, and then as I was watching this, it was like, oh, Tiger Eye. Oh, he's dead in 10 minutes, you know? Yeah. It's just like, it is going through this entire arc at such a Mach speed. It's just like, no, wait. Why aren't they in the bar, like commiserating and drowning their sorrows like the original? It just felt very like, the brevity was kind of like, it kind of took me off balance a little bit. I enjoyed it, but considering we had so much time with these characters, you know, in the original anime, it threw me off kilter a bit. And I know that mirrors the manga, but even then I feel like with the manga, I don't know if it's because it's due to reading or the fact that we have the book and we're able to savor the art more, but it just felt like they're gone, we're moving on, you know? I enjoyed it, but it was like, my goodness, like, can we just have like 5 more? It's like my son sleeping, you know, and it's time to get up for school. Can we have like 5 more minutes? You
know? So you would have preferred they did the Battleship Yamato route, where they released like 6 movies and then chopped it up into a series.
I don't know. Well, I actually would have preferred them to make a full series like they did with, you know, the first arc, and then the Dark Moon arc, and then they did with the, I forget the arc. Moonbusters arc with Mistress 9 and all of them. I would have actually preferred a series, even if it was 12 episodes. I feel like that brevity, because even with Crystal, even though it was cut down from like the original anime in the 90s anime had 200 episodes. And I think with the Sailor Moon Crystal, the first 2 cores were like 24, like the first 2 seasons were 24 total. And then the 3rd season was 12 total. I would have liked 12 episodes rather than like 2 movies. I get why they're doing it, but I feel like I would have been able to enjoy it more if we were allowed to have that full series.
You know, you figure that they would know that there'd be an audience out there for it.
Absolutely.
And, you know, that's it's all about, you know, if you work in digital, it's all about the return clicks. So if you're coming back consistently to Netflix, you're gonna see more things. And so instead of coming back twice for 2 movies, which I have to make time for, I can make time for a 20-minute episode every couple days.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think they, you know, I'm still not 100% behind Netflix when it comes to their anime distribution. But I think they did a far better job with this than some of their other ventures, which have been, they've had problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what like the amount of subscribers are on Crunchyroll, because I know a lot of people with Crunchyroll, but by having it on Netflix, I feel like it really exposed it to a lot more people, because I know most of my friends have Netflix, but maybe half of them have Crunchyroll.
Right.
Like my son just happens to have Crunchyroll for the next year because it was given to him as a birthday gift. And the only time I really had a Crunchyroll subscription was when I was still in my grad school, so that I had an easy way to refer to a lot of animated series in a legal way so that I could do my research.
Yes.
So I totally understand why they put it on Netflix. I feel like it was something you couldn't avoid.
Yes. Well, just be careful, you know, it doesn't end up being gobbled up by Disney Plus. because I could see Disney like being like, this is a franchise. Let's market the hell out of it. So
yeah, I think they're still all about, well, actually, no, that's not true, because for it here in Canada, we're lucky because all of Studio Ghibli's movies are on Netflix, but I think Studio Ghibli's movies in the States are on HBO Max. But
yes, they are.
I could see that happening.
Yeah. Hey, something that I really enjoyed in this was seeing our more mature sailors in their lives in a quasi-retirement.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that because it's something that, you wonder, they had that same conflict that I've been dealing with in the story that I'm been creating of, how do you give up the magical life? And that seems to be something that they were dealing with for a time. Like the life the four of them had was really, really nice. And then, it's kind of like back to the front.
Yeah. And that seems like what happens every time in between an arc. And I think that's what I really appreciate about Sailor Moon. Even in the middle of an arc, they still take the time to show you that, yes, there are these girls that have these amazing powers, but they're all, at the end of the day, they have lives. Like Serena, sorry, why did I call her Serena?
I'm not sure on that one.
I'm just sorry. For some reason I just had the original like English dub on my mind for a minute. No, but Usagi, she goes to the Crown Center and she plays video games, and she likes to. I think in the beginning of the first movie, they go to like some kind of cafe or something, or I don't. I remember expressly seeing something where it's like, oh, we get to try these things and eat food or whatever, and she loves food. It's like one of the main things that makes all of us love her, and I love that about shows like Sailor Moon and like other, especially a lot of the magical girl shows that were in the 90s and early 2000s, in that it humanizes the characters without resorting to darkness or tragedy. Because it's like, not everybody, like, God, like a lot of us have gone through bad times in our life, and I am very much included, but I've had good times too. And I think I relate more to seeing Usagi and Makoto and Minako and Rei and Ami going out and hanging out and do things, or going to the park or having picnics, or Usagi like, oh, Mamo-chan,
Yeah.
I relate to seeing that more than I relate to seeing like other series like Magical Girl Sight, where it's like the girl lives in like an abusive household, and
yeah,
I've been in that situation.
Yeah, but so you don't necessarily need to clobber us over the head with a tragic backstory.
Exactly.
I really think, to me, one of the appealing things about Usagi, though at many times she drives me crazy for this exact same reason, she is not like the perfect girl. She is not the star student. She is not the star athlete. She is like, do you remember a 80s television show called The Greatest American Hero?
Yes, my grandparents love that show.
Ralph he was a social studies teacher who came across this alien suit that gave him superpowers. And he couldn't land when he was flying to save his life. It was always a disaster. And I always, that is what happens when a regular person, like everybody else, like Usagi, ends up being granted this magical gift. It doesn't change who they are. Hopefully they can rise to the occasion when they need to. But it's it's I think it's one of her appealing qualities, but it is also one of those qualities where I'm like, oh my God, step up once in a while.
I mean, in her first battle, she doesn't even like she doesn't even like get this massive sort of burst of power or this burst of responsibility to take out the Yoma. No, she cries so much that the Yoma is like, please stop, I can't stand this. and even in the movie you see those sorts of like things where it's like, yeah, I know what to do, but I'm still Usagi, so there's going to be some weirdness in there somewhere.
Yeah. There's a complete disconnect in her character between her real life and her sailor life. But it's just one of those, that I think that really helps connect her.
Yes.
To those who are reading, because think about it: who's reading the manga, who's watching the television show? Is it that star super popular girl in school? Is it the one who's on the track team? No. It's an indoor kid.
No, I'd argue that, and I think that's why Sailor Moon appeals to so many people, is that it has something for everybody. And I think that's where the other Sailor Senshi come in. And I don't know if you've ever heard the story of Ami, but for a while, Sailor Mercury was the most popular Sailor Senshi in Japan because she was very popular with parents because she reminded them of, the student who is very dutiful to their studies, who studied hard, who got high grades, who of course would, go through the tests with the entrance exams for like high school and college, and would do them swimmingly. And I just find that funny that the parents loved her the most because she represented the perfect student. But meanwhile, other people are like into Makoto or Sailor Jupiter because even though she's this tall sort of, she's tall and she's tough, but she wants to be a housewife and she's a really good cook, even though she can absolutely like kick everybody's butt because of how tough and tall she is.
I mean, hey, I don't think until I think one of the characters, at least for me in these two movies that popped out, and I'm like, wow, I really like her, was Venus.
Yes.
she is who Usagi should aspire to be. She's hyper competent.
Well, yeah, but she's also been through a lot to get to that point that Usagi probably hasn't gone through yet. And it really shows in the Codename Wa Sailor V manga. Poor Minako, man. There's a reason she's a leader of the Sailor Senshi, but boy, does she go through a lot to get there. Yeah, so I in that case, I would agree that she is what Usagi should be, and then in the future, I'm sure in some way she is. But yeah, Minako is what Usagi will become after she goes through all the ridiculousness,
through the crucible of magical girlness.
Yes.
That I think it's because she has that big bow in her hair that I really like. It's a fashion statement for me. She kind of reminds me of Karen Tendo from the show Gamers, she was like this perfect, absolutely perfect girl, and then she fell in love and got involved in a very weird triangle, and like she went from like the greatest student, perfect person in the world to like her life just kept unraveling, and it was great to watch. So,
oh wow,
it's hysterical. It's one of the funniest animes I've ever watched because it is just it's if importance of being earnest. If Oscar Wilde, if Oscar Wilde had written an anime, Gamers would have been it. It is that it's wow. very much in that comedy of errors, comedy of manners storyline, and it just makes me laugh every damn time. Wow. Okay, yeah. How do and we were talking for this before I started recording. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I still have that constant problem. I mean, I'm well, let's go with history. Why do you think we have Chibiusa in this universe? Is she necessarily, I hate to say the term necessary, but is she enough to drive plot? Or is it just kind of like they wanted something cute other than, Luna?
Yes. And I say this yes to both, because if you look at it from a historical standpoint, Takeuchi sensei originally wanted to end the manga on the first arc. She wanted to kill everybody off on the first arc, but the series got to be too popular. And if you know any story about a mangaka who creates a popular story that everybody loves, you're not ending on the first arc.
Exactly. They want to be employed.
Yes. So in that regard, yes, she was created to add to the plot or create more plot. And I say this because the Aelin and the Doomtree arc that was in the original Japanese anime was not in the manga at all. It was complete filler. And I'm just going to explain it really quickly, because Japan, when it comes to its animated properties or just anything in general, they love the media mix, in that they release a whole bunch of different sorts of like media at the same time to generate a ton of interest and, a whole bunch of eyes on a particular series or, franchise. And Sailor Moon is no different. So the manga is being released roughly around this. I think the manga was released a couple of months before the anime started releasing. And then Sailor V was started a few months before that. So it's like it's in a similar vein to like the Naruto's or the Bleaches, and that things are happening at the same time because of this media mix. So when they realized Bandai and I want to say it was Kodansha, who's the original Japanese publisher of this, in their their elementary school reader Nakayoshi, they're like, oh, we have got fire on our hands. Yeah, that whole thing where you're going to do it in one arc. No, we got to keep this going.
We're gonna lock you in a cage until you produce more.
I mean, she had a lot of pushback for the ideas that she created, but I feel like she got a lot of what she wanted in, as opposed to other mangaka who can't say that they have. But so yeah, she had to literally extend and create more plot to the series to keep it going. So of course, that's naturally where Chibiusa evolved, in that this young girl from the future, well, by young I mean 900 years old, comes into the past looking for the crystal, and we know that's of course the I cannot remember arcs names. It's so bad, but it's
all right.
It's the like Rubius and all the it's basically the one after the first arc. So yeah, it's basically her pushing the plot, prolonging it or pushing it more to give people more content. But at the same time, I'm not sure that I dislike Chibiusa as much as other people dislike her, or they're like, what is the point of her being here? Because I feel like, especially during the Dark Busters arc, her friendship with Hotaru really, it really evolves her as a character. She's no longer this secretive, this bratty. She is very bratty in the arc she's introduced. Beyond her putting a gun in Usagi's face, and we all know it's fake. Yes. But if you see the original scene in the 90s anime, yeah, and then you see that scene in Crystal, you will realize why they didn't do the same thing in Crystal, because they could never do that again in this day and age. I mean, you hear a gunshot and Usagi falls down and you think the worst. And I'm like, yeah, they weren't going to do that in 2013. It's just not happening.
No. We even get rid of the guns into ET. So,
Yeah. But yeah, she really comes as she really grows as a person through her friendship with Hotaru. And you see her, she's in a way, her own way, she's still a kid. There's so much that she still has to learn. But you can tell that she's more malleable about it in some ways than Usagi is. Some fans are probably going to get on my case about that. But in looking at the movies, especially looking at her relationship with Pegasus or I forgot what his name is, the unicorn, Pegasus.
I'm gonna go with, they say he's a Pegasus
Yeah.
and a unicorn, but isn't that an alicorn?
Yeah, but it seems like Pegasus is the easier thing to say because
Yes.
most people remember it. Yeah, thank you, Harry Hamlin and
Clash of the Titans. Oh yes, yes.
I watched a lot of that stuff with my grandparents when I was younger. So
love that. Loved Ray Harryhausen movies. Anything that was stop motion animation, yes. Loved it.
You know, I'm going to go back to the topic for a minute, but I didn't appreciate that so much as a kid, but I really appreciate it now as an adult. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, she seems more malleable and more mature. It's like, in a way, she rights the wrongs of Usagi's personality a bit, and that you can kind of tell that she's picking up the lessons faster than her mother is.
Yes.
And I feel like people kind of are hard on her, but they forget that even if she is 900 years old, in at least emotionally and mentally, she's a kid.
Yeah.
So there's a bit more time for her to learn things, and she picks up on things way faster than Usagi does. And yes, she seems kind of bratty at the beginning of the first movie because for whatever reason she did not learn, and maybe kind of looking at Mamoru in that way is not a good idea. But then,
it's in anime, so I guess it's okay. It's an
anime, so I guess it's the normal thing to do. But, eventually the Pegasus comes in and she's like, Mamoru who? I think her plot does work because and I see this by raising my own son, in that, kids pick up on the lessons faster than their adults or their parents picked up on as they were growing up, due to different circumstances or, whatever different reasons. And I would argue that maybe people shouldn't be so hard on her, because in her own way, she's mature and she is more understanding, and you might even have more, of an understanding of things than Usagi does. And as much as there are times where she is bratty and you want to smack her,
yeah,
but that's everybody in the series.
Kind of like the kid in Speed Racer.
Yeah. Oh God, yes.
So let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at my questions. Okay. I felt in a way, and mainly because of the Hotaru Haruka Mitsuru Setsuna thing, that there was a maybe a message about, you don't have to give up on the magical of life, even when we have adult responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that, because I mean, you could use it as an analogy for just chasing one's dreams.
Yeah. And, a lot of people tend to interpret the end of Sailor Moon as her giving up her powers. But if you read the manga, it doesn't really, it insinuates that the cycle will move on and there'll be new sailors. And if you see the ending of the second Eternal movie that was just aired, yeah, obviously there will be, because that's what the Amazonas Quartet represents, right? But you never get, she may not be a sailor, but that doesn't mean she's not powerful in a different way. I mean, obviously she's going to be the queen of, Neo Queen Serenity, and and in the manga, Mamoru says, even if there are new sailors that are born, you are invincible and you will always be eternal, this eternal star. And even if the universe is sort of safe or at peace, there's a reason why there's a reason for them to still be there. It's not like, oh, you don't have to worry about anything else anymore, they're all gone. No, there's just what they represent and what they have accomplished and what they have done, they still, they still have that power in that sort of way, if I'm making any sense.
Yes. No, you are making sense. That, it's the idea, it's comforting with the idea that, there is, almost in the way that some Western Christians believe in angels, even though they're, even though there's an omnipotent God, there are angels there for intervention. And in a way, that's what the Sailor Senshi are. They're angels of intervention.
And it kind of reminds me of, there's actually a sequel to Tezuka's The Princess Knight, or the Twin Knights, or Futago no Kishi. Sorry, I don't remember what knight is. And in there, the main character, Princess Sapphire, who is in Princess Knight, is now a queen. She has twins. She's doing the queen thing, and she even, her husband even says to her, "Oh, you don't do the Princess Knight stuff anymore." She's like, "Oh no," but then one of the male twin, something, he disappears or he gets caught up in something, and so the female twin, her mom takes the female twin. I forgot what her name is. But she's like, "Yes, I am the queen, but I'm also the Princess Knight." Like, so even though people think that she's not herself anymore, or that she gave up that title to get married, become a wife, become a mother, she says straight out, "No, I am the Princess Knight." So even though it looks like you gave up those things that made you powerful, just being able to recognize and say to people, "No, this is who I am and this is what I do." You never give that power up. It may look different. You may get older, you might mature, but you've never given it up. And just, I feel like you have so much power in that, recognizing that no matter what happens, if you grow up, things might be different, but you recognize you're still this person and you will always be this person. And she trains her daughter to become as powerful a knight as she is, because that's what she does. And yes, in some magical girl series, it does seem like a lot of characters end up giving up their powers. Not so much in Madoka. I think they still do.
She becomes a freaking goddess.
Yes.
She becomes a goddess. So, yes. I don't think that's a step down.
No, I even say that in my thesis. Like, a lot of these characters don't actually give up their powers. If anything, like in Joseph Campbell's like the mythic narrative, it's like, they be male character because it's very male based, because something like a god. But in these magical girl series, a lot of them end up becoming something like a goddess, or a goddess, not like a goddess, a goddess. Like, they have gone through the apotheosis chamber, and they're like,
yeah. Hey, I actually take more comfort in goddesses, in the feminine idea of someone, spiritual ruling over me, just because it feels more nurturing than, less fire and brimstone. But I also have known quite a few women that are fire and brimstone. So, but as we get into this larger discussion, I did in prepping for this, one of the things I did is I did a search of just a Google search for a list of best magical girl stories. And of course, one of my favorite, Yuki Yuna is a Hero, was up there. Precur, Sakura, and Sailor Moon were on that list. But then we have Revolutionary Girl Utena and Kill la Kill. And well, I knew you probably had plenty of discussions about Kill la Kill, but I'm not sure whether Utena, how are we defining a magical girl story? I don't remember, I remember a lot of trippy experimental animation and storytelling in Utena, but I don't quite remember a sequence of a magical girl sequence where, you know, flips out a compact and changes into her superpowered self. And I thought that was a very interesting way of defining it.
I've only read the Utena manga because I for whatever reason I just can't get into the trippy experience that the anime is, and it is true. Actually, let me stop. I actually have seen the Utena movie. I think I was still living in the States. It was past midnight, and it was on like Encore or something like that, and it was pretty popular at the time, despite the fact that this is like the early 2000s. So it's, you know, the availability of watching series is nowhere near the way it is now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I just remember watching it, wondering why this girl is on my screen with short hair, even though she's a girl looking like a guy. And then an hour and a half later, wondering why this girl with pink hair is transforming into a car. So there's that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that was her magical girl transformation sequence.
But, I think also that just the idea of her being married to the prince, oh God, what is it again? The Rose Bride.
The Rose Bride,
so
yes.
That transformation into like a prince character to fight for the honor of the bride, I guess it's transformative. Yeah, that's one of the looser ones because most people put her in the warrior category, and that she transforms into this warrior to fight for the Rose Bride. But yeah, Utena was one of those things.
It still doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. So
yeah, Utena is one of those things where I can see it, but I would have to look at the anime and fully understand it, because it's definitely outside of the barrier. It's towing. It's kind of like Kill la Kill in a way, even though Kill la Kill is more forward in it. It's towing the line in a way. Like it's kind of like that, but not fully. But a lot of fans have accepted it as such, so I don't argue with it. It's like, hey, no, you're right. But I think it's one of the looser interpretations. In that there's a warrior, and then and in a looser sense, her transformation into this warrior when she gets the sword out of the bride's chest.
Yeah.
And then just her transformation into her ideal prince. It's more sustained rather than it something like a transformation sequence happening every sort of like episode. I feel like now that you're talking about it, it feels more like Majoko to me. And Majoko stands for Little Witch. And in Majoko series, it's usually either this young girl is given the power to transform or do something magical that she wouldn't normally be able to do, or she's from a magical world and comes to the human world to become stronger. I don't get that either. Like, why are you coming to the human world to become a stronger magic user when humans don't use magic? But, you know, far be it from me to say anything about it. So I think in that sort of way, in Utena's sort of way, yes, she's a warrior, but she's also kind of this Majoko in that she's been given this magical power, and that she's the prince of the Rose Bride. So she takes part in these duels to keep the Rose Bride. But then the plot goes to her getting involved in finding her prince, and it's like I don't.
Yeah, I still didn't understand. I still didn't understand why she was. I never got the sense that she was in love with Anthony.
Anthony, okay. See, yeah.
I never even get there's a connection there. It feels like she just wants to take all comers anyway. Like, want to fight.
In the original anime, I'm not sure. In the manga, oh no, absolutely not. In the manga, she literally friend zones Anthe. Like, you know what? I'm so sorry this stuff has happened to you. I'll be your friend. But in the movie, something happens where they're like, okay, I guess we like each other, and they even have a kiss at the end of the movie. But yeah, it's I forgot. Ukuhara, that particular guy, he is very much about having queer themes in the anime that he produces. And Utena is no different, but I totally see that. In the original anime, which I have to look at again, because she's okay. Yes, she's close to Anthe because, she's protecting this person. And I guess feelings can kind of, when you're in that situation, feelings can develop. But you find out that she's just trying to, she's her brother who turns out to be the guy who saved Utna when she drowned when she was a young girl. And when that happened, she's like, oh, I want to be a prince like that person who saved me, and he turns out to be an absolute jerk. And I'm saying that very lightly. But yeah, I don't see how that happened in the anime, but in the movie, it definitely ramps up. It definitely ramps up.
Okay.
But in the manga, no. And the story is that the original writer of the manga wasn't comfortable with the queer themes, which is why Anthe pretty much gets friend zoned at the end. And in the adolescence of Anthe manga, she actually ends up with Toga, and Toga was the guy who ends up being her friend. It's just weird. It's just crazy.
The whole thing was a little odd to me. And it has nothing to be with judging of anyone's intentions.
Right.
I mean, I have a history of like trying to promote as much queer literature as I can when it comes to anime, but I just couldn't make heads or tails of the story half the time. So
yeah, Utna is one of those series where it's like, I mean, literally, there's a character that transforms into a cow in the middle of it. So it's a weird show.
Okay. One more discussion point, and
sure.
Since you've looked at, you've studied these shows,
mm-hmm.
How would you then? What are the key elements? How would you define what makes magical girl stories?
Oh my god!
If I'm to say, if I'm going to be like, this is a magical girl show, and it doesn't necessarily, have someone in a tutu and flying with a kaleido stick. How am I going to? What am I going to say? This is what a magical girl show is.
Well, there is a lot of kaleidoscopes and transformation and cute little brooches that might turn you into whatever you want, or mirrors, or even like magical. But I think one of the things that really stick to it, and I talk about this in my thesis a lot, is this idea of transformation as like a motivator for growth. So yes, most of the time a magical girl, before she's given whatever power she's given, and let's be honest, nowadays it's mostly some sort of trinket given by like a magical sort of creature, whether it's the cuties or the lunas or faves or anything like that. They're given this sort of thing that's literally a physical representation of their power, and they use it to transform, whether it's an actual transformation sequence, or just they're a witch, and then this is sort of like, this represents the power that they have, as it does in Sugar Rune. They have like wands, but it also represents their growth. Represents how this magic will help them grow as a person, because as I talk about in my thesis, many of them start off as like, they're either selfish or like weak-willed, or just they're only in their own world. Like they may be good students, but they don't care about anything else, or like they're flawed. They are very flawed, and that becomes very apparent at the beginning of the story. And like Usagi, she they might even admit it from the get-go. Like at the beginning of Sailor Moon, what does she say? That she's clumsy and a crybaby.
She's clumsy, she's a crybaby, and she's an idiot in school. Like she's poor, a very poor student as well. Mm-hmm. So
not only that, like she just doesn't want to put the effort in. Like that's how I also interpreted it. Yes. She just doesn't want to put the effort in. She's like, I could be smart, but why when I can eat food,
Yeah.
But there's this connection between becoming this magical avatar and dealing with the responsibilities that are linked to this magical avatar, and how that makes a person mature and grow, so that over time, when everything ends, they are not the same person that they were at the beginning of the story. Because if you notice in Sailor Moon, yes, she's like, do I have to do this? Or I can't believe I'm doing this. But the more that she transforms and the more that she discovers that she's not just, Usagi, she's also the Sailor of Love and Justice in Sailor Moon, but she's also Princess Serenity. And the Sailor Senshi were her protectors of them, like from the other princesses of the other planets on the Moon Kingdom. You see her grow into this protective person. Yes, she's a crybaby. Yes, she's a klutz. Yes, she's, she could be so much of a better student, but she doesn't let those things stop her. She does her best to do her mission and protect the people that she loves. And you see that as the story progresses. And she goes through so much. And I don't want to get into it too much now, because that could be a topic in and of itself. But I get really agitated when people talk about how, series like Sailor Moon are just very superficial and it's all good vibes and everything. And, it's like, it's nothing like the Dark Magical Girl series. To which I respond, have you seen how many times this woman has watched all of her friends die? Have you seen her watch how many times she's seen her boyfriend either become completely useless or just up and die?
Yeah.
Like, have you seen how much tragedy she has gone through every single arc? And you're telling me that this isn't dark in its own way? In every series in its own way has gone through that. Sugar Sugar Rune, which is another like low key, but I love that series by Hideako's wife, Moyoko Ano. It talks about friends who are lifelong friends. Like, one ends up going bad and betrays the other. It gets rough. Yeah, and you see them rise above it. Even like, not only like, yes, there's this magical thing, but also they find the magic in themselves. And you see that in so many of the Magical Girl series. And but I don't feel like, if you're just a magical character and you don't have that connection between becoming this magical avatar and then growing as a person, I will not see it as a Magical Girl series. And in a way, that's also why I also see things like Kill la Kill as a Magical Girl series. Yes, Studio Trigger is all about the action, but to see Ryuko wear her kamui transform, and it does have a transformation sequence in most episodes, and seeing her kamui strengthen her, and she comes to accept herself in spite of having a very perverted father who has made very questionable decisions.
her whole family is pretty effed up. So
yeah, and then finding out that that's that episode.
Yeah.
I remember when that episode aired, and then I had to do a Magical Girl panel 2 days after. I was just like, but yes, to see her rise above that through the use of the kamui, fighting the people at Honoji Gakuen and all that it's that connection of transforming into this magical person, and then how that connects to you growing as a person and finding the magic in you that nobody can take away.
That is a wonderful point, and I think it's something that we can all kind of internalize ourselves. That we all do need to, one, cut ourselves some slack, and understand that we can keep moving forward. I mean, we may feel like we get stuck in the mud, but there are some times where we rise to the occasion, and those times those are our transformation sequences.
Yes. Yeah. Doing this, my thesis on Magical Girls was definitely mine, and the road to getting there was absolutely mine. So I take a lot of this to heart.
Well, again, thank you for talking with me. You can follow N'Donna on Twitter at Misu the Witch, and I can tell you openly how much I love the Magical Girl shows. I have loved them for a long time, and in some cases, it's just because you know, I find the costumes cute.
Yes.
So there's that. So if you're interested in listening to more guests like N'Donna, subscribe to WLNM, and we hope to continue to highlight the best that independent creators have to offer. Until next time, keep reading.